how many gallons of a 10% alcohol solution, let's pretend you have a container of, say, liquid, and a 10% alcohol solution would mean that 10% of that container is pure alcohol and 90% of it is, other stuff like water. Must be mixed with 50 gallons of an 80% alcohol solution. So we have two containers and we're mixing them together to get one big container of a 30% alcohol solution. So we're mixing two containers together to get one big container, and we want to get the alcohol solution to be 30% alcohol. All right, what we're going to do is we can make a table out of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a table where the first column is the gallons of each container. And then I'm going to let the next column be the percent of alcohol in each container. And then the last column, if I take the amount of gallons that is in the container, I multiply it by the percent of alcohol that's in the container, you get the number of gallons of pure alcohol. So this last column will be the gallons of the alcohol in each container, each solution. All right, so we have this 10% alcohol solution. We don't know how many gallons of it we have. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to let that represent X. I'm going to let X represent it. When you don't know something and that's what you're looking for, we can represent it with a letter. The percent is 10%. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change the percent to a decimal by moving the decimal 2 spots to the left. It's going to make it 0.10. And then to figure out the number of gallons of alcohol in there, I'm going to do 10% of X, which is multiply. So 0.10 times X. This will represent the number of gallons of alcohol in the first container. Now I'm mixing that with 50 gallons of an alcohol solution, so I do know the number of gallons of the second container. I know the percent. I'm going to change it to a decimal, 0.80. And then to figure out how many gallons of alcohol in this, I'm going to multiply 80% of 50. Either do that in your head or use a calculator. You end up with 40 gallons. So the second container has 40 gallons. So I'm mixing these two containers together to get a 30% alcohol solution. I don't know how many gallons of this I have either, so I'm going to represent that with the letter Y. I don't know that one either, so I'm going to use a letter to represent it. I know the percent. I'm going to change it to a decimal. And then the number of gallons in that container is 30% of how much is there, Y, so 0.30 times Y. There you go. I've organized the data given to us in the problem. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to write a system of equations so that I can solve for what I'm looking for. The first equation you can do is like an overall balance. I'm mixing together X gallons with 50 gallons to get Y gallons. So this X plus 50 has to equal Y. X plus 50 equals Y. I'm not spilling anything. So these two have to add up to the final gallons of the final mixture there, Y. And you can do a balance on the alcohol. The amount of alcohol in the two containers that I'm mixing together has to equal the gallons of alcohol in the final mixture. So 0.10x plus 40 gallons of alcohol in the second container have to add up to the gallons of alcohol in the final mixture there. And there you go, there's my system. Now you can either solve this using the substitution method or elimination method. I'm going to use substitution because Y is already solved for. So I'm going to take this expression for Y, the X plus 50, and plug it into the Y of the other equation. So I'm going to rewrite that bottom equation. But instead of Y over here, I'm going to put X plus 50. So we got 0.10x plus 40. That's going to equal 0.30 times X plus 50. You need to put X plus 50 in parentheses. And look, I have an equation with just X in it. And X is the gallons of the first container, which is what I'm looking for. So when I solve this for X, that's going to give me my answer to the problem. All right, to solve this, I'm going to distribute the 0.3. Rewrite the left-hand side. This is going to be 0.30 times X. 0.30 times 50 is 15. I'm going to collect the X terms on the left, so I'm going to subtract 0.30X on both sides. Collect the numbers on the right by subtracting 40 on both sides. So on the left, I'm left with 0.10 minus 0.30. That'll give me a negative 0.20 times X. And then 15 minus 40 is negative 25. And now to solve for X, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 0.20. So I'm left with X on the left, and then negative number divided by negative number is positive. 25 divided by 0.2 is going to give you 125. Now remember, X is the number of gallons in this first container. That's what I'm looking for. Don't forget to put the units. So my answer here is 125 gallons. There you go.